Today we're going to look at the top 20 most valuable vintage paperbacks right now.
On evenings like this, I like to curl up with a good book. The sort of book that lets the imagination run away with you.
Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to look at the top 20 most valuable paperbacks right this very minute. There are many out there right now from well-known authors with very well-known titles also. They can sell for some incredible amount of money.
Do you know me? It's frightening how many novels of suspense I've written. But still, when I'm not recognized, it just kills me.
Now, one of the most highly collected authors out there is Stephen King, and he's got quite a few paperback versions that can go for some incredibly good money. The original release of Rage by Stephen King was actually authored under a pen name of Richard Bachman. Wasn't found out until later that it was him writing under this name. Now, some books were actually first released in a paperback form, so the first edition, first pressing of some books are in paperback. This is the Signet version of Rage. And if you look at the actual front piece, the image on the front, to me it actually looks like Stephen King. It looks like a throw-off to actually himself. Interesting one here, excellent condition. They do go for some really high amounts of money. Now, there were two versions of that listed. I do believe this one came out after that one there. This one does sell for less than the other copy. The other one we just showed you is usually defined as the actual first edition, first pressing. The cover artwork of this version is obviously much different, as you can see. Same everything else. Again, this is a later press. It is not marked as a first edition, first pressing. After a certain point, they actually came out with Stephen King's name on them, obviously.
Do you know what scares me? People who don't use their local library. Actually, it's a great place for everything.
Now, this is The Long Walk, also by Stephen King, penned under Richard Bachman. These are ones that are still out there. You can find these sorts of things at thrift stores, garage sales, church sales, even at flea markets and antique malls. Most people don't assume that paperbacks will ever carry this value. Hundreds of dollars, this one here will sell for pretty much any day of the week, as long as it's a first edition, first printing. Most of them as well will say that they are a first edition, first printing. You will be able to determine that most readily on most paperbacks out there. This one's also by Signet, as you can see here. It does have some issues. It's still sold for hundreds of dollars. Other than some creasing and its obviously use, it still is a nice copy of this paperback book here. Now, this is Vargo Staten, and this is Creature from the Black Lagoon. This is from 1954. For those of you who are sci-fi fans and monster movie fans, this is the book that started the craze for the Creature from the Black Lagoon. There were two movies made, if you didn't know. The creature also appeared in some other things also. This one isn't in the greatest condition, but these were cheaply pressed. It wasn't made to last. It's a lesser-known publisher at the time also. Still an excellent copy of this book. Now, this is the book, The Secret, A Treasure Hunt. This is by Byron Preiss. It says it's an unread copy. Now, this one does have some issues, as you can see. It does have some minor wear here and there. It's still an excellent book. It does sell for thousands of dollars if you find a nice copy of this. Now, this is The Naked Lunch by William Burroughs. This is a 1959 paperback here. It did sell for $1,575 with 10 bids. This one looks far newer than it should be. The artwork, the stylization looks like something more modern to the 80s or 90s, more so over than, say, a 1959 one. This is an Olympia Press first edition. This one looks to be in excellent condition, and they do have a clear acetate book cover to this. You can get book covers to any of the paperbacks out there. Most of them are standardized size, so it's fairly easy to find. Excellent condition, as you can see. Interesting, not really much wear at all. This one almost looks to be in about mint condition, other than some very minor issues at the very top left edge. Now this is The Adding Machine by Edgar Mitzelholzer. This one here sold for over $1,000. This one here does not show up very often, but these types of books do turn up. You may have them in your attic. You may have them sitting on a bookshelf just gathering dust. Now, if you wait to the very end after the credits of this video, I have a bonus one to give you. Something that's worth some big bucks. Something that you probably haven't a clue on as well. This one's a fairly nice copy of it too. As you can see on the left side, there is some damage at the spine. It did still go for that much money. Some wear and other issues, as you can see, but these are fairly scarce. Now, these were also made with cheaper paper. They just weren't made to last. That's why when you find them in good condition, they still can sell for some excellent money. Even in not so great condition like this one here, you can still get some top dollars out of it. Now, this is a Joe Dever Lone Wolf paperback from the series itself. This is a British one here. This is something you can find over in England and in Europe. They are available over here also. I have run into a few of them myself. This is one of the more scarcer ones of those. Now, most of the Joe Dever ones I would still recommend grabbing up. They can sell for some decent money, pretty much most of them. Especially if you've got a whole lot of them, you're going to make some pretty good money. Now, this one here sold for almost $600 US. Now, this is Necromancer by William Gibson. This is considered a cyberpunk. If you don't know what that is, I would honestly recommend you looking that up. There's actually a movie titled that as well. These almost always sell for some pretty decent amount of money. Ace is a well-collected publisher of these sorts of sci-fi vintage paperbacks. Dark covers are pretty hard to get in good condition. This one's not too bad at all. It does have some minor surface rubbing to it, but other than that, it's still a dark, deep copy version of this highly collected, highly sought after paperback. Here's an extremely rare, very interesting educational version of Calvin and Hobbes, the actual cartoon comic strip from the Sunday papers. This is basically a teacher's tool. That is why this is so highly sought after and sells for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. An excellent primo copy of this could border around the $1,000 mark. Now, many people may miss this because the characters on the top are not really Calvin and Hobbes. But when you look on the inside, it is most assuredly a Calvin and Hobbes that will help you learn to read. Excellent, excellent copy here. Obviously not the highest selling paperback out here, but it is obviously something to look for.
If you don't give your man 007, I will.
Now, another highly collected author, Ian Fleming, does have some very high-priced paperback books. Some of the very first edition paperback James Bond books can sell for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, like this one here. Even in not so great condition, as you can see with this one, it does have some spine issues. The cover looks like it's partially detached or there's pages loose. It's still sold for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Now, this is the Pan Books version of that. That is the version you want. Most of the earliest first editions of paperbacks of James Bond were issued in the UK as well.
If your man lives for excitement, give him 007. There's a 007 gift set for every assignment. This one packs the full line, including 007 aftershave, hairdressing, and cologne. That's 007 for the license to kill women.
When you use 007, be kind.
Now, here's a very interesting, very unique Star Wars book. Now, this one says it was pulled off of Amazon, which is 100% correct. Now, this author of this book wrote the book. It actually wasn't published because they decided to go into a different route after the book was actually written. Kenneth Flint, the author as well, did write some small short stories for Star Wars because of the cancellation. Now, this book was acquired from someone else, the actual text itself, and someone self-published it on Amazon without permission from Lucasfilms at the time. So Amazon was forced to pull this book down, but some of the copies have made it out into the public. People bought it when it was up for the limited time that it was available before Lucasfilms actually caught on to this. Now, if you just just saw this book sticking on a shelf somewhere at a sale, you may not realize what you have. The Heart of the Jedi is what you're looking for in this one here. Again, this is a self-published book. The author who self-published it, I do believe, wasn't trying to make a profit. He just wanted the book out there. So I don't believe he actually made any money from it, but it was highly sought after for the limited time it was up. So I would highly recommend adding this to your list of books to look for. Here's Primal Rage. This one is based on a video game. A video game inspired this book by John Van Holt. Came out in 1997. These are fairly scarce. There's actually quite a few different video game inspired books like this for many different lines of video games. So if you run into some paperbacks from video games like this or have them laying around the house, it's well worth looking into them. They've stated up at the top here based on the #1 video game. I don't know how they're rating that, but it was fairly popular. You can see the graphics on here as well. This was published as well by Penguin Books. It's very limited in production, as most of these video game related books like this were. Now here's an interesting one. This one's actually in German. There are many foreign language versions of paperbacks that can sell for some really good money also. You just have to pay attention and dig into them to figure it out. Now this is Marion Roman, and this is by Vicky Baum, published in 1983. Fairly scarce book. It does sell for hundreds of dollars, as you can see here. Now, books like this are constantly missed by most people. Most people do not mess with foreign language books of this type. They don't know how to look them up. They're not sure on the language sometimes also. But foreign language books is a huge area where you can make some pretty decent money if you pay attention again. Now, back during World War II, Penguin Books made a bunch of lower budget, cheaper produced books. They're not in the fanciest of covers. Most of the covers look the same. For that reason, many people just pass these up. They assume there's no artwork, no real true graphics, a painted cover, anything else like that. But these are extremely, insanely scarce, highly sought after. This is the complete unabridged version of most of these, is what you actually want also. Not in super condition. It does have some spines, some edge issues. Artifacts Intervenes is the name of the book itself. It's by Richard Kevern, and it's another one of those oddball ones that most people will not pick up. They just won't assume something that looks like this will carry that kind of value. This is from the same line of books, and this is by Agatha Christie's The ABC Murderers. This is actually signed by her. This is another area where many people will miss out on. We have actually found dozens of actually autographed first editions signed at thrift stores, garage sales, and flea markets throughout our time doing this. So it is highly possible for you to find a signed autographed book. So even in some cases where you run into some paperback books and it's not a first edition, if it happens to be signed, you can still get hundreds of dollars like this one here. You can see too, again, the condition is not that good on this one here. Even if it wasn't signed, it would still be worth some pretty decent money, because these 1940s war era mystery paperbacks do not show up very often at all.
From Peter Benchley, author of Jaws, comes a story so riveting the suspense is awesome. The story of David and Gail, two lovers caught up in a thrilling underwater adventure. A story of intrigue, a story of terror. The #1 bestseller, The Deep. Now a Bantam paperback available everywhere. Soon a Columbia picture starring Robert Shaw, Jacqueline Bisset, and Nick Nolte. The Deep. Read it. See it. The Deep.
Just one more example here from the same series from 1940s. This is Cutthroat by Christopher Bush. Now this one has a lot going for it. The condition is probably the best I've seen out of most of these paperbacks in general. This is one of the more sought after ones also. You'll find far more, say, Agatha Christie versions than you will ever someone like this. Now this is Throne of Glass by Sarah Moss. There are many different versions of some paperbacks. Doesn't necessarily have to be the first edition of a paperback to be worth some big money. This one you will see quite a few copies selling on eBay. This is something you may have sitting on a bookshelf right this very minute, again, gathering dust. These do show up. It's fairly new. It's one that could be missed for that very same reason. Now here's an underground one that's extremely scarce. They weren't produced in mass quantity, at least the first printing of this. This is Iceberg Slim, and it's titled Pimp. I actually read this one in college. Very interesting read, to say the least. This is the version everyone wants. This one sells for hundreds of dollars in pretty much any condition if you can find it. Now, Iceberg Slim was actually a pimp. This is a true story of his life. Again, it's an underground, highly collected. These are just extremely scarce. It's not the only one by him also. There are other authors in the same genre. All of them can sell for some incredible amounts of money. Now, this one's The Evil Sleep by Evan Hunter. This is on Falcon Books. This is a very insanely scarce one, to say the least. Now, this one just doesn't show up in this type of condition. You're almost never going to find any of these dark-colored covers that aren't worn down. The dark black colors are extremely sharp in this one here. It looks like there's almost no wear whatsoever on the surface of the cover itself. Now, another way to tell on age on many of these is the actual price on the cover. The price can dictate when it was pressed. Usually, the lower the price on the paperback, the older the paperback will be as well. Now, the last one here is the Dune Encyclopedia by Willis E. McNally. This is highly collectible. This one will be going up in value as the movie approaches. For those who don't know, there is a new Dune movie coming out very soon. The previews and trailers have already hit the market. Now, there are many Dune paperbacks that can carry a value, including the making of Dune with pictures and illustrations inside. There are many other sci-fis that will sell for some good money, but Dune in general has some high probability that the prices will increase. They're already selling in the $200 to $300 range for this one right here. Now, if you stick around till after the credits, I have one more bonus one to show you that should surprise most of you out there. Well, there we have it. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
Janet Daly's novels have sold 25 million copies. Make that 25 million in one.
I've read everything Janet Daly's ever written. She's always been a perfect lady. But in Touch the Wind, she's a real woman.
Touch the Wind is a romantic adventure with a dark and dangerous hero. A guy like this should only come into my life.
Touch the Wind is on sale everywhere from Pocketbooks.
Touch the Wind, the new Janet Daly.
By the new Janet Daly.
Now here's a bonus for those of you who stuck it out to the very end of the video. This is J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Now, any of these books here that you're seeing will sell for some decent money. There's a very good reason why. Now, Ace published these in '65 without permission. They did not have permission, and it was ended. They pulled the run also. These are still out there, though. I have personally run into some of these myself. You will still find them. Most people haven't a clue that any of these sorts of the paperback versions carry a value or that could be considered illegal because they were violating the copyright laws at the time. So any of these you find out there will go for some incredibly high amounts of money.